Good afternoon and welcome to my hobby table once again. And what I've got on the table here is something that I've had for several weeks now. So the story behind why I have these RCModeler magazines on my table is about, I don't know, a year or so ago, I went on a spree where I was buying one or two issues of these, and I did some episodes here, video episodes where I do some flip throughs and stuff like that. Well, about early July, it was before the AirVenture 2026, I found a person on eBay who had a whole bunch of RCModeler magazines to sell. And he inherited or somehow came across a lot of magazines. He had almost every single RCModeler magazine from probably like, I don't even remember, from before I was in the hobby, probably from like 86, 87 to, I don't know. He had a lot. And I was like, well, geez, I am interested in these magazines, but I'm not going to buy all of them because I have no idea where I would store decade worth of magazines. So what I ended up doing is we chatted back and forth. And as it so happened, he was actually coming to Oshkosh for EAA's AirVenture 2026. So he was offering these magazines to me for $3 a piece. And I was like, that's a great deal. So what happened is all the ones that he had, I basically just said, look, here's what I'd like to have. Give me 2 or 3 issues from each year from like, say, 88 or whatever until 2000, whatever. And I said, but just make sure that the ones you select, and I said, I don't really care which months they are, just go through there and check to make sure that there's an engine review in these. So he was very gracious and he did this, and he selected magazines. So I've only got 4 of them here, but I've got a total of 31 magazines in a box, and each one of them came in one of these nice little magazine protectors too, which was just unbelievable. I mean, this guy James was just a really nice young man, very gracious, worked with me. We met up at a location a mile from my apartment, did the transition or the transaction, and I got a box of magazines. So now I've got however many I bought before, 7 or 8. Now I've got these additional 31. And the question I have is, I've got several questions for you guys watching this video. First of all, the first question is, how many watching my videos have never ever even held an RCModeler magazine? I'm curious to know how many people watching have never even held one of these magazines and never really had the opportunity to go through these things like I have, and many many more seasoned modelers, because I don't know exactly when this publication stopped being made, but I think it was probably in the early 2000s. So it's been quite some time, but I love this. Of all the model magazines, I loved this one the most, and it was mainly because it was very colorful. They were always really thick and filled with ads. And of course, when I first got into the hobby, which is about when the time frame these things represent, many of them anyway, I was just going through and looking for the engines and reading everything I could about airplane kits and engines, because that's what I was into. There was so much more information encased, so much more awesome information inside these magazines that I never even really looked at, because it's just so vast, and this magazine covers so many different aspects, from electric to helicopters to cars. Not cars as much, but primarily airplanes. But I mean, there's just so much in each one of these magazines, and I would sit there and go through all of my magazines 5, 10, 15 times, because this was in the days before. Let's see, what's the earliest one I got here? So this one, I just randomly picked 1990. We'll just say 1990 here, this one. So obviously this was before most people had internet. So if you wanted to inquire about any of these things, everybody had a phone number. So you had to call these people. And one of the things that was, here's Tower Hobbies, call toll free, I don't know how much it cost to run advertisements in this magazine, but it's interesting because you can tell how many people really had a budget, because you have these tower hobbies and stuff like that. But then let's see if I can find what I would consider a low budget outfit. Colorado Discount Hobbies, I don't know if I'd call them a low budget, but they didn't have full color ads. But there's better examples of ones that are just like, you just flip through them because you're like, ugh, what the hell is that? Let me try and see if I can find something here real quick where it's just text. They're just showing you text like this. Yale Hobby. Now this is primarily a helicopter place, but it would be one of these types of things where they just have all these things listed, but you have no idea. Oh, here, this was another one. Sheldon's. Sheldon's Hobbies became a lot better over time, but I mean, they just have a listing of these things, and you're like, okay, great. So you'd have to really know what it was you were looking for. Okay, so this is a little bit better. This area of Sheldon, so it does show some pictures, so you can kind of take a look at it. But I mean, nothing catches your eye like full color ads, and you know, it was just awesome. I mean, I just loved this magazine. But I use this. Here's Omni Models. I use these magazines now basically for research purposes, and I guess you could say it's kind of one of those things where you're kind of reminiscing, going down memory lane, because you're thinking, wow, wouldn't it be fun if you could just open up a beautiful magazine like this nowadays and pick all of these different things out that were if they were still available. I want this, I want this, I want. Well, you can't do that now, because probably at least 90% of the things you're seeing in these magazines are history. They're just gone. They don't exist anymore. The companies don't exist. This ad was what got me to buy my first Super Decathlon in 1988 or 89, I think. And I put, the first one I had was an ASP 46 two-stroke engine. And I don't know if I crashed that plane or if I just upgraded it to my very first four-stroke engine, which was an Enya 80 four-cycle. But anyway, so it was just like color ads got me big time. You know, they pop, and they're just, I don't know. So anyway, look at this. Merco engines from Hobby Lobby. I mean, so one of the things I was interested in was looking at, to see if I could find anything on these Mutnik engines that I just did some videos on, because supposedly those engines came out in 1988 and they lasted until like 1995, where this fellow here, Randy Lenslato, who heads RJL Industries, he bought them out. And so I just happened to open this the other night, looking at this engine clinic from Clarence Lee, and talking about Randy, RJL Industries, and how he started Mikoa and how he was buying up. I had no idea that, and this is the November 1990. I had no idea that HP was going by the wayside from Austria back that far, and that he actually purchased the rights to them that early in my hobby career. I mean, I would have never thought that. I didn't know that. Unbelievable. So anyway, this whole episode or engine clinic talks about RJL Industries, Randy, and then he goes on and answers some questions. But I mean, there's just so much information, so I don't know what to do with these, other than I want to share them with the world. I want to share them with the viewers and subscribers of this channel, and the question is, what's the best way for me to do that? The first question was, how many of you have never held and flipped through any RCModeler magazine? The second question is, are you interested in me presenting these in some meaningful fashion like I did before, maybe just a flip through, or I go and select various things that I think are interesting, like that engine clinic or an engine review? Are you interested in that, or are you not interested in me sharing this information at all? I mean, it's a shame that I couldn't share it. If people wouldn't want me to share this information, because it's just really, oh man, this was just really a good time in the hobby. And the funny thing with RCModeler magazine was, back in the early days, for me, I mean, it had been around long before I was in the hobby too, but around the 88 time frame, 90, they were thick. And as time went on, they started getting, this is 94, this is 96, they started getting a little bit thinner. So it was kind of like, well, that's the writing is on the wall. Most of these magazines are in pretty good shape. I'm just seeing some pages here that are kind of flipped over. But the writing was kind of on the wall. When you started, I would be basically like a dog at the doorstep, waiting for the postal person to come and deliver my latest issue of RCModeler back then. And I just like rip it out of their hands and give it to me, and nothing else mattered until I made my first go through with the magazine. But as the years went on and I could tell that they were getting thinner, I was kind of like, what the heck is going on here? I was curious about some of these, oh look, here we go, 1996. So here is an internet address. So it would be curious to see if I can find it in the group that I've got. What's the first year that I actually start seeing website addresses? And that would probably be the demarcation. Here we go again. Check out our internet site, www.btown.com. That would probably be the demarcation zone of when things started going south, because for advertisers and mail order and stuff like that, because the internet was, just taking off then. So anyway, that's kind of this episode tonight is, what do you want? Do you want me to do something with these? I'm thinking maybe in the fall, winter time, it might be a good set of videos again to just kind of do some more flip throughs, things like that. I'm not sure. So the questions are, how many of you have never ever held an RCModeler magazine and had the joy of going through it, and especially being able to say, I'm gonna buy this or whatever, and then you actually went and did that? How many don't care that I do anything with this, or how many would like to see me do some flip throughs or article, read throughs or whatever? The only thing I'm really not willing to do, which is kind of unfortunate, because to some extent I can possibly make some PDFs of some of these things, but I'm not willing to destroy a magazine. Like if you want to see a PDF of an ad or something, I'm not willing to destroy my magazines to make PDFs like that one website does that has all the engine reviews. I'm not willing to just go and cutting these things up and doing that. They mean so much more to me than that, so that's not going to be a way I can share these things. I can do, maybe full page things, or if they had contiguous pages, maybe I can do some scans. I don't know. So here's another thing I was thinking of. Randomly find something like this APC propellers ad. Let me just pull this out. I just post this and say, name that engine. What engine is that? And kind of try to find some fun things like that to do. I don't know. Anyway, give me some direction as to what you would like to see, if you'd like to see anything done with these RCModeler magazines that I've acquired. Otherwise, I try to pick one up every few nights and just kind of flip through them and look through them. But again, it's one of those things where you're kind of like dwelling on the past. But for me now, it's more of a research project because of all the engines that are coming through here. I like to figure out, when they were in the market, how long they were in the market, what the prices were, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's our video for tonight.